I built a data visualization project and I'm going to show you how I did it. So first I'm going to start the image, and I have it as a Docker image because I want it to be available even if the website goes down or stuff like that. So and it's not that big of an image. So I just hold all the data in a Docker image. Because if I have the data on a website and the website goes down, then this project will be lost forever unless someone fixes it. But it's not running right now. I'm not sure why. Oh, that's it. I forgot to specify the ports. Now it should work. So first of all, it has a change log with all the different versions in it. Now I don't have internet, so this isn't gonna work, but it goes to the releases page on GitHub, and then that just shows up on the first time you load the web page. Even if you do a hard reload, it still doesn't show up again because it uses the local um, some kind of cache. I haven't been here in a while. Here the local storage, and if I clear it and reload, and it and so it stores the version, the last seen version. So if the website gets updated and you go to it, it'll realize, okay, there's an update because it's different than what I saw before. And so it loads the change log. And then I also have in here, so here I have, these are just the verses. And so whenever you click at any point on this map, it shows the information. So it shows the coordinates and it shows what those verses are. So that this map is made with leaflet, and it's just a software that or a library that will take image tiles and serve them. I have the tiles in a zip file because it's like I can't remember how many, but it's a lot of tiles, and if you just copy it, it will be really hard because it's a lot of file operations. So I have it in an uncompressed tiles.zip. So it's basically the same thing, but it's got different directories. And as you can see, that's the file structure. So it's zoom, then x, and then y coordinates .png. And so the way the way it works is leaflet is just this map window, and it decides when to query the server for new tiles, and then this is the code for the server, and for the route for the tiles, all it does is just uses zip file to open that zip file and retrieve the tiles. But whenever you click on a point, it has the coordinates and the verses. And so for the coordinates, what I have is I used Vite to build the front end, and for the coordinates, I should go in here, not there. But what happens is Leaflet has a way of getting the coordinates for each individual pixel. So it's not like the map coordinates, but it converts them to the pixel coordinates. So if I go to the beginning, it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. So Leaflet a, has a built-in function to convert those. It's project and unproject. But anyway, if I initially had this pixel info when you click, I initially had it as a request to the server, and the server would get that information for you. But I decided not to do that because that's a lot of requests for very little data. So what I did instead is I used IndexedDB, which I should have in here. This is part of it. There's an IndexedDB instance, which it's just like a database. So the JavaScript gets the coordinates from the map, and then it queries this IndexedDB for those coordinates, and then it returns the metadata from that. So it says like the citation, and the different metadata, but what I really need is just the text. And so it has the text for each verse. So it just queries the citation and the text locally without having to query the server. It just uses the IndexedDB. And so there's that. And making the tiles is a whole nother process. The way I made the tiles is that I don't I don't think I have it here, but the way I made the tiles is I used Pillow, Python imaging library, and ChromaDB. So what I did is I took all the verses from, and the link is here to the data set I made. I took all the verses from the Bible, put them into a ChromaDB, and then compared them all to each other. And so the darkest ones are the most similar. Like here they're the same because they are the same verse. Here they're kind of dark because it says the evening and the morning were the third day and the fourth day, which is really, really similar. So that's why it's dark. Here it talks about the earth the earth bringing forth seed and grass and fruit, but here it talks about bringing forth this tree and seed and stuff like that. So it's really similar. Here, there's an interesting pattern. It's like this because it's a genealogy. So it says that so and so, so and so. It's like the same format every time. So it just repeats the same pattern over and over again because the verses are so similar. And then here in two consecutive verses, it mentions Methuselah and Lamech. And so that's why it's so similar. And it's different from the rest of the pattern. Another thing you can notice is that this section, whereas a bit, you can see this is lighter than the rest. This part is Genesis to Esther, then Job to Song of Solomon. I think it's either here, yeah, so it's right here is Song of Solomon, or no, Song of Solomon is right there. That's where it ends. And so that you can see that this is different from the rest of the Bible. So the wisdom books are different than the history books. And then after that, it's the prophets. So it's from Isaiah till the New Testament, which is probably here. Yeah. And so, wow, I actually got like one of the last verses. So this is, yeah. So here it talks about Elijah. This is the beginning of the New Testament, and you can see there's a difference in the rest of the text. And so, anyway, this section is the New Testament. And you can see this, which is, it has this grid pattern. And it's like, what is that? Well, it's because in the Gospels, there's four Gospels, and they all repeat some of the same stories. So that's where these squiggly lines come from, where it's the same story, but in different Gospels. So it says that they brought children to him so that he could touch them. And here it says they brought him infants that he would touch them. So it's similar. It's a similar story. And he says the same things in both of them. So that's what those squiggly lines are. And it's cool that you can see that in the Gospels. And then this dark block is from Romans to Revelation. And you can see how Acts is different than the rest of the New Testament because it contains events, not like preaching like in Romans, because all the rest are epistles except for Revelation, which is also different than the epistles. But it's cool how you can see there's difference between different parts of the Bible and there's patterns. But anyway, the way I made the tiles was first I created the native resolution of tiles so that uh, so I compared 256 verses by 256 verses in batches. So it's like wherever 256 is right here. So it's like a square that big is one image at native resolution. And I took that and it's a whole bunch of different images. I believe it's like 122 tiles at native resolution. And so in order for the map to work correctly, because if you just make one big image at native resolution, that's 31,000 by 31,000, and it's like a 100 megabytes as an image, which is not really gonna work, and you can't really view that on normal image viewers. So what you have to do is you have to break it down into tiles, and so that makes it easy because each tile is about like 50 kilobytes. What I can actually do, I didn't think about this. I can open tiles right here. Actually, it might be, never mind. I can open it Or maybe not. It's got a lot of files, so maybe not. Yeah, never mind. But I scaled them up, so that mean, or no, I scaled them down to make larger tiles. So I took the 256, I took the 256 and 256. So these four, 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles, and made them into one tile. That's 256. So it would take the 4 pixels. Now it used a different equation. I can't remember exactly which one, or but a downscaling algorithm. So it takes those and it makes it a lower resolution image. So when you zoom out all the way, this is actually a 256 by 256 pixel image on the screen. And when you zoom in, it gets the finer images. See how it's zoom level 0, then zoom level 2, and then 3. And as you zoom in more, it's the more fine zoom levels. And so the native resolution is zoom level 7. But if you do that, if you just leave it at 7, you can't zoom in all the way. The pixels will be too small to make a difference between them. And so what I did is I upscaled the images for level 9, for level 8 and 9. So that means that instead of using 256, I would take the 128 by 128 and divide each pixel into 4 pixels with the same value. So it would become a 256 by 256 image again, but it would have less of the native resolution in it. So I did that twice in order to get it working. So each pixel you see at max zoom is actually 8 pixels together. That's the way I had to do it because it just doesn't work otherwise, and that's the easiest way. But a problem that did do is it like makes the file size a lot bigger because the native resolution is the most expensive in terms of storage, and then I had to basically duplicate that twice. So it's like 3 times the amount of storage just to get the needed zoom. But that's due to leaflet, the way it works. It won't let you zoom in all the way. And if like even if you do zoom in, it becomes blurry if you zoom into a high resolution image. So like maybe I can dem demonstrate, like I can show the image in another. So look, if you zoom in, well, this is not a good demonstration. Let me get the lowest. So if you zoom in here, you can see how the pixel edges aren't really defined that well. Because it's, let me actually get zoom level 7. So this is native resolution. And you can see when you zoom in, it's blurry. And that's bad because it doesn't look nice. So that's why you need to upscale it to get the extra zoom. And so The hardest part of making this was the tiles. That's the part I had to learn for this project, and the Vite and JavaScript. That's stuff I haven't worked with before, but I made that. Also has full screen, which is just a plugin for Leaflet, and then I made this on my own. So what this is you can select any verse, and so it'll do a search for all the verses that are closest in meaning to it. So I looked up Ruth 3:5. I'll just look up another one just for reference. So now you can choose between which series to look through. So we'll look through Ruth 3:5 right now. You can see it's in order of the most similar. The less distance, the more similar it is. So it's most similar to least similar, and it's the top 50. So he says, all that thou sayest unto me will I will do. And here it says, any sweareth or whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee. So that's really similar. That's why it's the closest verse to it in the Bible. Then the next closest is kind of similar. And the rest, like she says, I'll do whatever you say, and she's asking for something to be done for her. So it's kind of similar. That verse apparently doesn't have much similarity. But then you can switch between that and the other one. So here it's just a bunch of verses that say the Lord spake unto Moses. I think that's all of them. Yeah. And when you get to the max or the minimum of the 50, it doesn't go any further. I also have a color filter with CSS, so you can choose different colors if you want. And then you can clear the map, which just clears all the markers. And so the way this works is it sends a query to the server's ChromaDB database. So here it loads the ChromaDB, and then if you look up verse similarity search with the settings, it will get the results for you. So it'll query the ChromaDB and then get the coordinates and the distance, and then it just gets the text from the local index DB just to reduce the amount of traffic that has to go on and the amount of data that's being sent. So that's all I have for the map. And then there's links to everything. Like this is the data set with the tiles if you want access to the tiles. So I made these using all mini LM L6 V2, which is a really common embedding model. It's the default for ChromaDB. So that's what I made this data set with. And there's links to my GitHub and other things. So my GitHub, my LinkedIn, the Docker repo, where you can get the image, and you don't need anything other than the image. If you just download the image and run it, it'll work. It doesn't connect to anything else. The Hugging Face is where the data is. That's where the tile data set is. And the GitHub repo is the GitHub for this project. And then I have links to the churches I like right there. A little explanation here. But I deployed this project on Cloud Run, and so I bought this domain and set it up with Firebase so that it automatically redirects. So it has this link, but it points to the Cloud Run link, which is this. So this link just points to this one, but it can't just be a simple redirect because then it'll just redirect you to this and this has this ugly link. But if you do this, and you set it up with Firebase, it just loads this, but with this URL. And so I run it on Cloud Run, and it's really cheap because it's a small project. It's like, I think it's got like 30 or 40 cents worth of expenses, but part of that is due to I was playing around with cloud storage, so it's more like 10 cents so far this month that I'm spending to run it. And so that's all. I think I have a README for it that explains how to run it and explains how it's made